RCR with Paul Brennan.
Back with us again at RCR is Phil Barrett, Southland-based machinery operator on a large farm. He was on RCR a few weeks ago, you may remember, talking about the need for a fuel tax protest here. He's back again, this time with an update on the growing movement. And that is a nationwide action plan for Saturday. That's this Saturday, May 16th.
Enough is enough. Join the fuel tax protest NZ. On Saturday, May 16th, 2026, we take action. Unite for change. Make your voice heard.
Phil, welcome back to RCR. Thanks for coming on again.
Thanks for having me, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, so this is elevated now to a nationwide action for Saturday 16th, and I'm looking at around the country where that will be, and it's in quite a few places, and you're asking people to join the protest. So you're expecting that list of areas to grow, I would imagine.
Yeah. In the last week, probably, since actually I came on here, the whole movement has actually taken off. Obviously, with a bit of exposure. There is at least 50 locations that are confirmed, I think, now to have some sort of stand or have people that are going to say their piece. So that's actually amazing, and it's really, really good. From one end of the country to the other too. It's not just South Island or North Island. Everybody's jumped on board, so it's great.
Last time we talked, a week or so, just a bit more than a week or so ago. Okay, I remember you describing the situation then. We're not too far on from that. What are you hearing now?
There's a lot more awareness out there of what is actually going on. And the unfairness, I think, of the way that the government is loading these taxes onto our fuel in the midst of a cost of living crisis, and people are actually really struggling, and the government is actually making quite a bit of money off the back of everyone else's hardship.
Because every time the fuel price goes up, the GST take goes up. I'm assuming, of course, that would be the case.
Yeah, well, I've got some numbers for you if you want that. Every 10 cent increase in fuel equates to $60 million extra in GST in a year. So it's a wee bit distorted because that's a yearly figure. That's just the way that it was worked out. But that's a lot of money. What we're trying to do is get them to cap the GST to pre-conflict prices. That just means that any extra GST that they're going to make, any extra increase in price doesn't have GST on it, and get it back to where it was. That's probably a fair enough demand. They've made enough. Because GST, as you've quite rightly said, GST is actually a tax on top of a tax. They've already taxed us in our wages. They've taxed us at the pump, and then they put GST on top of it. So, in my mind, it should be gone altogether. But
why do you think they're reluctant to do that?
Well, it's the revenue. It's the money that they're actually gathering. There's other forms of
but it's
money as well.
That's small beer in the scheme of things, isn't it?
Well, it all adds up, doesn't it? It all makes a difference. If you're working on margins, if your transport company's working on margins of 10 or 18 cents, to get your job done, any extra increase has got to be huge.
I guess the point I'm making is that for the government, it's small beer. So why not just cut a bit of slack for people? And you're not going to notice it that much, though if this goes on for a long time, they will.
Well, there's 30 other countries, Paul, that have done something to help their citizens in this. This isn't isolated to New Zealand. This is global because of the way it's worked. And 30 other countries have actually taken up the challenge and helped their citizens out by either removing the road users, removing some sort of excise, removing the GST, something to help them out. We've done nothing, absolutely nothing. And in fact, they've mooted that they're going to increase the fuel taxes in 2027. It just came out the other day. They want to put more tax on there. So, they need to have a real good look at what they're doing.
So cap GST at pre-conflict pricing levels, cut fuel excise tax by 50%. You just alluded to the future tax increases. So you're saying cancel all that, right, at this point?
Yeah, well, we don't need it. No one needs any more fuel tax or any more price put on anything. I'm saying, And I would say remove the biggest scam they've got going at the moment is the ETS tax of 10 cents. It's a minimum of 10 cents that's charged to the fuel companies, and then it's added on at the pump and we're paying for it. So the fuel companies aren't even paying paying their fair share. They're just handing it on to us. And that ETS tax is not being used for any sort of climate fund. It's ridiculous. It's just going into the big consolidated pot. They haven't done it.
Is that like some
24.
sort of scam? Is that like some sort of scam?
It sounds like it, doesn't it? It sounds like a big money go round.
Okay. Stop and scrap the ruck system temporarily. That's a big move, isn't it?
Yeah, possibly is. It might be too big. I mean, the pushback on that is that we need it to fix our roads, but the other side of it is we want to know what they're actually doing with the road user charges. It's really, really murky where they're spending this money, because it all seems to go, all these taxes seem to go into a great big pot that are being allocated by different organisations. There's no actual clear path for what they're doing. How much of the road user charges, for example, are being used on rainbow crossings and cycleways? Just to put a stick amongst it. How much the road user charges, the heavy vehicle transport industry are saying, that they want the roads fixed so they can carry on doing freight and things like that. But how much of it's being sucked away for other projects? And it's very, very hard to get that sort of information out of them. We want that tidied up.
What about the idea of allowing trucks to operate at higher weights? Is there anything? I mean, it's not on the list of your kind of demand.
It's not something we look at. My personal, and a lot of other people will tell you the same, my personal thoughts on that is it's probably just going to destroy the roads even more. The roads in a lot of places aren't suitable, especially the rural roads. They aren't suitable for what they're putting on them now. And it's not the roads you've got to remember, it's the bridges, which is really heavy infrastructure. If you've got to start replacing bridges, that's quite big money. So I don't think it's a good idea, no.
Interim relief for essential services. What are those services?
Well, you've got farming food production, emergency services, or people getting. I know there is some sort of handout going on at the moment for primary care workers, things like that. But it's only a few cents. I think you'll find the politicians are getting better money just for driving to work than what the primary care services are actually getting for providing a service to the elderly and to people that are housebound and things like that.
Full accountability. Show us where every dollar of fuel tax and ruck revenue is going. Just cover that. Why do you think we're so stingy? Is it part of the culture?
I don't know. I think we're very stubborn.
Trying to stay pure to some kind of economic principle? What do you think that is?
I don't know. It's different governments have done different things, and I think this one here, they did inherit a bit of a mess. But I mean, that aside, you've got to look at what you're doing. You can only be the mean stepdad for so long. You have to actually back off a bit and help someone. That's the way I look at it.
Well, you'd think that there'd be an upside in the way you were perceived and supported ultimately if you're a political organisation to this, yet they don't seem to see that. And none of the parties are saying any of this, are they? Unless I missed something.
No, that's the thing that's really quite frustrating. They're all jumping up and they're flying up and down the countryside at the moment, trying to garner support for their political parties for the upcoming election, and not one of them have brought this up. They don't see it. They don't seem to see it as a problem. And yet, out on the street, if you talk to struggling families and struggling businesses through the New Zealand tax protest Facebook page, if you see the actual stories from the street of people that are losing businesses, that are really struggling, and they're actually reaching out for help, it's quite heartbreaking, really. And I don't understand how the politicians can't see that.
Back to food and farming, how are things on the farm with diesel at the moment? Is it being distributed properly? Are people? Because we heard early on that some farmers were being told can't deliver this week. We've done the allocation next week. Are you hearing more of that?
Yeah, we're getting a wee bit of that. Basically, the fuel is getting through, but it is being sort of metered. I'm sure it is. You can't just ring up. We used to be able to just ring up and it would be there the next day, sort of thing. That's not happening. There's a bit of a wait. The biggest thing that's happening is on the back of all this fuel shortage is the other costs that are rising. Fertilizer is just going to go through the roof. It's sitting, I don't know what it is now. They're saying by next year it could be $1,800 a tonne, where it's somewhere about $1,100 a tonne now. That is a real concern. Like I was saying last time I was on here, that the downstream or the flow-on effects of this is going to be catastrophic. And it's petroleum products, byproducts of refining, that we're starting to find shortages in your plastics and things like that, pipe joiners, bailage wrap, all that sort of stuff's going to get really, really hard to find or expensive. So, yeah, we've got a hard road ahead of us.
If people are interested in being part of this protest, obviously you got a Facebook page and social media and quite a few areas of the country already. Just looking at the list here. What should they do? Do they need to get organised with you or just show up somewhere? What's the plan?
Well, yeah, basically it's been done through Facebook and obviously you guys, RCR, have just really helped out getting the word out for us, which really appreciate. But if they get on the Facebook page, Fuel Tax Protest New Zealand, and then and they'll meet up with people, just put a comment on. We've got a really good admin team. Some of the people that are actually behind the scenes have done, some of the hardest working better than our politicians, and that's the truth of it. They're really working hard. They seem to be up all night. So they will be able to direct you to something. There's over 50 locations. It's not going to be hard to find somewhere to stand and support, or even just drive past and toot. Because I'll tell you this, Paul, there's a lot of people that are wanting someone to help them, but they're actually not ready to put their head above the parapet. They don't want to be seen down there. They're frightened. I've heard people saying, we'll lose our gun license if we push back against the government.
This is another issue that New Zealanders seem to have. They're timid. Yeah. Why do you think they're so timid?
I don't know. Probably not hurting enough, or they don't know how to express themselves. I don't know. But
they're always worried about what other people will think. Who gives a damn?
Well, yeah, I've never worried too much about that, to be fair. So,
well, nothing gets done if that's the attitude, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of people think they're getting judged, I guess. But, all you have to do is just drive past, give the guys a toot, give the guys and girls a toot that are standing there and doing it for you,
All right, Phil, thanks for updating us, and be interesting to see, first of all, the numbers involved and then any impact that might come from it. Really curious about that. So,
well, this is being live streamed now onto 25. Someone's jumped up and said they're going to live stream the whole thing. So,
oh wow, okay.
It's 26 different platforms. So the footage is going to be there to be shared. So it will be an amazing thing.
All right, Phil, thanks for coming back on RCR.
Thanks for having me, mate. Thank you.